the proper screen? Screen? Okay,
And you're good.
I think so.
Okay. I will call the meeting to order then and start by acknowledging that we're on the homeland of the many diverse First Nations and Métis people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on the traditional territory of Treaty 8. Just wanted to let council know that Councillor Dunn informed me he wouldn't be able to make it today. He's having some health challenges, so he wasn't going to make it tonight. And with that, we can move to our agenda. Is there any additions or changes needed to the agenda? I would like to suggest one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I'd like to address 17.1, 17.2. I will not be attending any closed sessions. I'd like the public to know due to the decorum of the last. It's too hostile, violent. The chair and council sit as silent observers. I request supervision at all closing sessions going forward.
Great, that's your call if you'd like to do that. I would like to move item 17.2 up to new business, and the reason is that this is some business that our council should take care of. And I'd like to make sure that we get it done. I'm a little worried that we won't get through all of our agenda tonight. And that way we can get that done. And then if we have our reports left, then so be it. That was my recommendation. Everybody all right with that? Any objections to moving that one? Councillor Martins?
So 17.2, the citizen nomination of the year, is that going in a closed session?
Yes.
6 point, what are you putting that to?
It would be under new business, 8.1.
Oh, 8.1.
Yeah, so we would be going into closed session. Then we would come out of closed session and we would finish. And go back, if we make it to the end, go back into closed session.
My second question is, last meeting's minutes, we had the special meeting. We were going to bring it back because it was, clearly we can call it a special meeting, it's just dropped off. What's happened with that?
I'll have to ask Chrissy, are you talking about the minutes from the meeting?
Correct, yes. It was brought here, of course, and rightfully so. We didn't have quorum, but it's disappeared. What have we done? What was the decision?
Oh, you're talking about the previous minutes. Yeah, you were gonna get an answer to that, bring it back. Wendy, can.
From what I remember, I think Councillor Wakel was going to call municipal affairs to ask if that was because there was a quorum in that meeting, whether or not to call it a special meeting or what wording we were going to use.
Okay.
Is that the meeting, that's the meeting
Yeah.
you're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the public hearing.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, I
Because
think
I suggested that
Yeah.
I suggested that municipal affairs be called.
Oh,
Yeah, we
Okay.
can do that. But we'll have to do that for the next meeting.
To get clarification on that.
Actually, maybe I'll bring this up under the minutes, so I'll wait for that comment. So we skipped past the violent abuse and attacks. I wanted to just make note that decorum stands no matter whether we're in public session or closed session. And I addressed this with the chair and I don't have a response. There was silence. So I'm just wondering, Chair, if you wish someone else to chair or if you're able to mitigate situations like that and be equitable in your chairing when violent outbursts that are really hostile and they're traumatizing. I mean, what we experienced, in closed session from two counselors was violent. I literally have never experienced anything like that in my life, so I would like a response from council other than kind of the silent treatment of moving on with things. It's not okay and it's not right. We shouldn't be held to this level of abuse. It's emotional, it's physical, it's stressful. I mean, it's not right.
Okay.
Hang on, so,
Hold on.
hang on. I was gonna do this anyways. Because it was my own purse, and I was gonna do this anyways, at the start of my report. I was going to apologize for the manner in which I spoke at the in-camera session. There's no excuse for it, you're right. I was mad, I was frustrated, very angry. So I do apologize to council and to Judy and to Sasha for the manner in which I delivered my words at the in-camera session. I was gonna do that anyways, but since we're talking about it now, I offer that forward.
Okay. And, yeah, we'll work on keeping everything and, proper decorum. Okay, back to our agenda. Moving on with, we have the one change. 17.2, moving up to 18 or 8.1. Anything else? Seeing nothing, can I get a motion to adopt with the one change? Councillor Waco makes that. All in favor? Opposed? It is carried. We have a couple of scheduled delegations tonight, and Heather here to speak on the compensation review that she's completed. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is always a pleasure to be back in these council chambers. I was confessing to your CAO today that, when he requested that I actually come to deliver this report in person, I really didn't fight very hard. Because I also took the opportunity this afternoon to go and wander around in the Jack Pines for a few hours, and it was unbelievably good for my soul. So thank you to all of you for giving me the opportunity to do that. For anyone who may not, quick little refresher as to who I am. My name is Heather Nanigan. I am Prairie Skies Financial Services, is my consulting company. I've done a few projects for the town in the past, one of which being a utility rate model. The other being a similar compensation review that I did for you folks in about December of 2022. I lived in High Prairie for 4 years. That was actually Councillor Musician's next door neighbor. I don't like the event. Just saying, I drove past the old house and I lived. Anyway, I'm also a CPA. I am a career accountant within the public sector. Compensation is one thing that I deal with on a highly regular basis, and have always throughout my entire career. So I'm certainly happy to present the outcome from this year's survey. And if there's any questions, feel free to interrupt or hold until the end, whatever you wish. So. There. So very high level overview of what this report is. I conducted a survey. I sent out requests to 22 different municipalities and saying, hey, please send me your salary information for these positions. We had a town of High Prairie listed. I received 11 responses. Of those, I also had about 38 separate positions that I was able to analyze. Kind of group those into 7 departments as well, kind of 7 operating areas. The key finding here is that High Prairie's compensation averages about $6,180 below the average response of everyone who responded to the survey this time around. Now, we'll get into this a little bit later, but The survey was divided into peer municipalities and non-peers. So when we're comparing High Prairie to the peer group, High Prairie lagged about 3.3% below the compensation levels within that group, and about 18% below the overall compensation for the non-peer group. Should not be any surprise to anyone around this table, but fair, equitable compensation is really, really key to staff retention, which is a sound financial premise. It is far, far less expensive to keep good staff than it is to try to recruit. So quick overview of the survey methodology. The plan here was to do something very similar to what we had done in 2022. So I circulated the survey out to the same 22 municipalities that had, by and large, the same municipalities respond, which is great because it gives me a good trend analysis. Now, most of the municipalities that we looked at were quite similar to High Prairie in terms of population, assessment mix, so your residential, your non-residential, and your geography and or proximity to a major center. So I tried to focus on municipalities that were, approximately further north, maybe within an hour or two of a major center. These are the municipalities that were identified as your peers, right? They should be theoretically similar to High Prairie in most of those factors. The survey also identified a few non-peer municipalities who were not necessarily similar in population or assessment mix, but were similar in terms of geography. Those being Diamond Valley, Peace River, and Slave Lake. You're gonna look at me and say, hey, why is Diamond Valley included in that list as a non-peer municipality? Why would we bother with someone like them? They're far away and they're not the same size or composition as High Prairie. The reason being is that the 2022 report, I actually surveyed the town of Black Diamond and the town of Charter Valley. Because they, at that point, were similar. They've since merged and are now a much larger municipality with, as you'll see, fairly high compensation. So they're not overly comparable to High Prairie, but I got data, so I included the data in there in the report. The overall analysis focused on median salary data. Of course, almost every position has a defined range. You have like a starting point to several steps within your grid, and then you have a high point. I took the middle of every salary range. I also did my best to convert every position into like a full-time equivalent. If that person worked within a full-time role for the entire year, that's what they would be paid. Okay. So overall compensation comparison, High Prairie's average, so this is all employees within the organization, is just shy of $68,000. The peer municipalities is a little bit over $70,000. The average of all the municipalities is about 74. So to plot those on a graph, High Prairie is the green box on the left there, the middle is the peer group. And then the blue on the side is the overall for all of the municipalities. So the difference between High Prairie and the peer group is about $2,264 per employee per year. The difference between High Prairie and the overall group is your $6,180 per employee per year. So as part of the review, I did kind of group all of the positions that High Prairie had provided into departments. Those being administrative services. There was two positions in that group, one being the legislative secretary, the other being the development clerk. Community protective services, this is the fire chief and the two peace officers. Financial services, again, this is the manager of finance, the accounting clerk, 1, 2, those kinds of roles. Parks and Recreation Department, this is the the recreation director, as well as the arena operators, the parks operators, and the aquatic center staff. Public Works, again, this is the Public Works Superintendent, the roads manager and the operators, and then utilities is the director and the operators. And a labor, sorry, there's a labor in there too. So for the positions that were reviewed within those groups, for administrative services, High Prairie is actually about 12% below the peers. Now, take this with a large grain of salt, because High Prairie has 2 positions within this group, right? Several other municipalities had different job descriptions that kind of fell into the same bucket or had more positions. So High Prairie, take this one very cautiously. Within community protective services, a bit of a mixed result. Some positions were above average, some positions were below average. Councilors, you'll note that you don't have the full report yet. You will receive that later on. We just wanted to give you the overview. But I'm going to flag for you one position within this group is the fire chief. It's going to look like High Prairie is paying its fire chief a large amount more than average. That is not necessarily correct because the other municipalities that submitted for that role, some of them had volunteer fire chiefs with this, so they were paid nothing. Some of them were paying, $18 an hour just for their overall firefighters. They didn't necessarily have a chief. So that one's one that doesn't necessarily compare overly well. Within the financial services group, High Prairie is right about on par overall for employees within this group. For parks and recreation, again, it's pretty mixed. Some of the operator roles were above the peer averages, but others were below. Within public works, overall High Prairie is about 7.5% below the peers. Utilities, again, was a little bit more mixed. Some roles were a little bit above the peer averages, others were below. Looked at the non-monetary compensation as well. So High Prairie, you guys have moved to the local authorities pension plan. I was so excited when I saw that showed up in your survey response. I don't need to tell you guys this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. This is like the Cadillac pension plan. Defined benefit plans are where it is at. For any professional within the public sector, this is such a good plan to have. I'm sure it's a little bit more expensive than your RRSP matching program used to be, but this is incredibly key for employer retention. This is a huge benefit. So thank you for doing that on behalf of your staff. For vacation, you're actually pretty competitive progression now, between 15 days in the years 1 to 2, all the way up to 25 days within 15 years. Again, the town has made some improvements in this benefit type since my first report in 2022. I recall seeing that, like the graph that you'll see, High Prairie was dead last in terms of vacation entitlements, and now you're not. You're quite nicely in the middle of the group, so that's great. Overall sick leave entitlements, 12 days annually that you accrue with a 90-day maximum. That is on par to slightly better than some of the other municipalities out there. Just in terms of how many days managed to accrue. Places where your non-monetary could be a little bit better. You could look at a health and wellness spending account. You don't have one right now, but more than half of the other municipalities do. They don't have to be large either. Like some municipalities have a $250 a year health spending or wellness spending account. That can help to offset my next point here. Your employer contribution to the health premiums. Right now, the town contributes 65% towards your health and dental benefits. There was one other municipality that contributed the same amount. All my other responses were in the like 75 to 80 to 100% range. Overall average for everyone was about 78%. High Prairie 65%.
Can you just explain a little bit more what is a health wellness spending account?
Yeah, absolutely. So a health spending account, they're quite similar, right? Health spending is a little bit more targeted in that it's an allowance that employees receive every year. And they can spend that allowance on health related items that would be claimable on your taxes, right? So anything that's approved by CRA, this could be your copay on any prescriptions. This could be extra vision care that you need. This could be, diabetic care, hearing aids, anything more along that medical expenses line. Health spending accounts, just as a last little point, are not a taxable benefit. So you pay it out to the employees, they go off, they spend their money, they're off to their life. Wellness spending accounts are similar, but they're a little bit more flexible in terms of they can be used for not necessarily health items, but wellness items, like improving your overall health. You might be able to claim things like running shoes because you're going to use your shoes to start running, or gym memberships, or a diet plan. Things you can't necessarily claim on your taxes for CRA, but that will still improve your overall health. Sports equipment, you can use it towards a laptop if you're going to be using your laptop to look up health related things. Like, it's quite flexible, but every benefit carrier has their own rules of what's allowable and what's not. Wellness spending accounts as well are taxable. So it's like you're giving the equivalent cash value to that employee, it does have to show up on a T4. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I was chatting a little bit with some of the town staff today. Turnover, it sounds like, is not a lot, which is great. You're lucky to live in an area where you do have quite a few long-term employees, maybe people who, you know, born and raised here, they're locals. Those are the ones that you definitely want to keep. Just as a food for thought item, replacing an employee can cost anywhere between 50 to 200% of their annual salary. So for a $70,000 a year employee, you could be spending anywhere from $35,000 to $140,000 to replace them. When you look at things like recruitment, training, lost productivity, quite often it's not just lost productivity for the position that you're filling, but also whoever's providing training for them, right? I know that my work doesn't necessarily get done when I'm training a new hire. So when you add all those costs together, it can be a lot. If you are looking at retention and reducing turnover, investing in fair compensation, again, is a really good way to recognize your employees' value. Like their literal value, like their dollars and cents value towards you, but also their productivity. The employees who have been in their jobs and in their roles for a longer amount of time are generally much more productive. They can get more done. They know exactly what's going on. They've seen this one weird thing that comes up maybe once every 5 years, but they've seen it 5 years ago, so they can deal with it, right? And again, retention efforts are very, very often a fraction of the cost of replacing staff or trying to hire you. So 3 recommendations to leave you with for the overall staff report. Number 1 is to conduct a compensation equity review. And you're probably asking yourself, well, then what the heck am I talking about here today? What you should really be doing is looking at position by position, which salaries, which wages for each position, how those compare to the other municipalities. Like, I've talked today very high level about the organization and about departments. If you are going to be doing a meaningful comparison, you do need to look at positions and reach out to the other municipalities who are in there to compare job descriptions, not just titles, right? Because it could be that this person is called an accounting clerk too, but they're actually doing taxes and payroll and HR. Like, you do really have to look a little bit deeper before you can make meaningful market adjustments on a position by position basis. Recommendation 2, look at your benefits package. Quite often benefits are easier to sell, I'm gonna say. If you're not necessarily looking to, pay your staff a whole lot more, because that shows up a little bit differently. Improving some of those benefits and some of those perks can also help to retain your staff and to attract new staff as well. Again, this can also show you as being a good employer in that you care about your staff. You want them to be well, you want them to be healthy, and you want to reduce barriers to them in that they are able to do that. Option 3 is to try to do assessments like this on a regular basis. You certainly do not have to hire me to do this. With a little bit of time in-house staff can do this. But sometimes it is nice to have a bit of an independent work as well. But really, you should keep looking at how you're doing this compared to your peers. and to your neighbors as well, who aren't necessarily peers, but they're still sometimes your biggest competitors when it comes to looking at staff. Fair compensation, again, it reflects your staff contributions and skills, which is a good thing for long-term retention. A quick overview on 2022 to 2025. The gap with your peer municipalities, and again, most of them were actually the same from 2022 to 2025. Most of the peers were the same. You narrowed a lot. You were about 5.9% below average in 2022. You are now much closer to 3.3%. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I've heard, anecdotally from management that there have been some market adjustments for some positions, pretty regular cost of living adjustments again. Thank you on behalf of your staff. I'm very, very pleased that you guys have closed that gap. On the non-monetary side as well, again, you guys have made some good improvements to your benefits program since 2022. There's still a little bit of room to make, but you're not lagging quite as far behind the rest of the group as you had been several years ago. So again, overall, considering monetary and non-monetary compensation, you're much more competitive now than you were. So it shows the hard work that staff and council have done. Keep on top of it is my final recommendation here. So quick conclusion. I completely understand and appreciate that staff are expensive, and even small changes in compensation rates can make a big change to your bottom line. I don't get it. You also have to be able to manage the compensation that you're providing with your services that you're delivering, and making sure that you have qualified staff to deliver those services, that you're retaining them for a longer period of time. Again, that can be a very fiscally responsive approach. Okay, next steps is to, again, look at those specific positions for equity adjustments, look at job descriptions, not just titles like I've done. Look at some options for benefits. Again, health spending accounts are a really nice one because they allow employees a bit of flexibility. Like if you don't use your prescription coverage, but you're like me and you have to wear progressive glasses, guess what? You can top yourself up if that's what you want. And yeah, just as much as you can, continue on the path that you have been on for the last 3 years, and keep trying to prioritize your staff retention to avoid turnover.
Okay.
That is the conclusion of the overall staff portion of the report. I did actually prepare a companion report, I guess, that is specific to the CAO position. Would you like me to discuss that now? Would you like to hold off on it? I'm going to look to the CAO and the mayor.
It can be discussed in a general way.
In a general way. Okay. How general?
Well, I don't know. It's something that would go into closed in many respects, so
Okay.
it can wait. I'm not stuck on it being public at this point.
Okay, that's totally. Again, councillors, you will receive the full printed report on the CAO position as well, and everything that I would talk about is included in there too. Any other questions?
Councillor Martins.
Heather, I really appreciate seeing you again. Always very articulate and well presented. Contrary and respectfully to what's just been said, our CAO across the province is public, and I think the discussion, we're not making decisions in this open session. I do agree that any decisions could be in closed sessions, but I think that it's certainly pertinent for the CAO portion to come into the public purview just to see how below market we are.
You can go ahead
Okay,
in detail.
in detail, okay. As much detail as I have. Okay, so again, Chief Administrative Officer is this is your one employee. 2 members of council. This person really is responsible for setting most of the tone for the organization. Council sets direction, but the CAO is responsible for implementing this direction and taking action. Really, this person is the key driver for many, many of the things that happen here. So again, this is looking at the midpoint of the salary range. This is everyone who responded to my survey. So there were 8 peer municipalities and 3 non-peers. There's a chart coming up. So Highbury, the midpoint of the salary range is $139,000, call it. Within the peer group, it's about 157. So that is an $18,000 increase, or about 11.6%. When we add the non-peers into the group, so this is all of the responses that I received this year. The average is 169,000, which is about a $30,000 difference, so 18%. Over and above the midpoint of the CAO salary. Sorry, one more quick note here. In 2022, just as a quick little update on last year, or the last report, the comparison to the peer group was actually 11.5% below. And now it has actually gone up to about 11.6%. So I understand there have been some adjustments to the CAO salary band, but it's lagging further behind than it had been in 2022. Okay. Plotting all of the responses on a graph. This is going to look very familiar to you once you actually get the final report. The very first data points on the left, that is the High Prairie minimum and the High Prairie maximum, those 2 salaries. The next, the green and blue dots, those are the rest of the peer municipalities who responded, and then the darker blue to the right, those are the non-peer minimum and maximum. So there is one municipality with a less competitive pay grid than High Prairie. It's actually the town of Libby. But everyone else who responded in this year's survey group has a better compensation package than your CAO does. So some key considerations here. Again, this is the person who is putting into action the decisions that are made around this table. The CAO as well, is making decisions, recommendations that are going to impact generations to come. This is a big, very important role. The current salary level, honestly, severely limits the pool of available candidates who are willing to come and work in this job. David told me earlier today that he's probably not going to be a 15-year employee. But this is not necessarily related to him personally, but just the duration of anyone who is sitting in this seat. There is a lot of competition for qualified CAOs, for qualified finance people too. But headhunters on a regular basis are calling and to recruit. So it's easy to be lured away. Turnover in this role is incredibly disruptive, both for the new hire and for the staff. Again, everyone is well aware that the town has had, 5 different CAOs in the last 4 years. It's tough. It's tough on your staff. It's tough on your ratepayers. Just getting used to the new person as they're in their job, and for the new person in that job as well, it can be very, very challenging. Couple of considerations and moving forward, if council is amenable to increasing the salary for this position, you could step it up gradually. It doesn't have to be, a giant leap in 1 year. As long as you're doing regular reviews to make sure that the overall compensation is where you want it to be relative to everyone else in the market, right? You could also consider some other non-monetary rewards, and some of these benefits are good sells as well. Supplementary pension plans for CAOs, like executive pension plans, are pretty common. Maybe an enhanced health benefit package, additional paid leave, things like that. Council could look at for this person. So again, smart financial planning could very well mean increasing compensation for this position, as opposed to just an ongoing cycle of recruitment, onboarding, termination, like voluntary or involuntary termination, right? Just someone leaving the organization, but then you go back to recruitment again, it's expensive. It's very expensive to do that. It is expensive in dollars and in time and effort for your staff. So compensation is admittedly one piece of the picture in retaining a CAO and retaining a qualified candidate. There are many other factors that are included there, but this is one that you can look at, yeah, and consider alongside the overall employment piece for this person. That's the end of my presentation for today. I will also mention the data that I presented for CAO here today is limited to the people who responded to my survey, the municipalities who responded this year. But CAO salary data is quite public in that it's published in the annual financial statements of every municipality. So it's not too tough to find other organizations to see, you know, is this a weird skewed group? Or to see if there is anything else that you guys want to have a look at.
And just so that council is aware, yeah, I've gone into the financial statements of similar sized municipalities and you've seen that, you've seen those numbers sliced and diced different ways, whether it's size of operating budget, population, median salary, and eliminating the top three and the top or the bottom three to smooth out the comparison. So council will see that in either tonight or in a couple of weeks. And based on actual dollars, you know, from 2024.
All right, questions?
Who's making eye contact?
I just, on the study, I was just gonna ask, I mean, you selected Cardston and Colehurst, which are not northern communities.
They're not northern, they were carried forward from the 2022 sample selection group. And they were included in that year because they're similar size and assessment mix, and like proximity from a major city. So northern is better, those are obviously gonna be more reliable results. But they're in there too, just because they were valuable enough and they responded. So.
And the other thing, I was just looking, you have, you know, the comparables, peers was, you got 8 peer municipalities, but I only see 7 on the list. Are you counting High Prairie as the 8th?
Probably.
So
Off the
it's
top of my head.
compared to 7 others versus 8 others. I just wanted to, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And the other thing I was gonna ask about is, how does our health benefits plan compare? Did you do any research on that?
Honestly, the composition of the plan is pretty standard. Like if you're with Blue Cross, you're probably with Blue Cross in terms of what the employees receive, like for their, you know, limits and caps on, you know, the amount of vision care and how often that resets. The big difference comes from how much the employer puts in as opposed to how much the employee puts in for those benefits on a monthly basis. So again, that was the High Prairie 65% of the employer puts in the cost. And the employee puts in the remaining 35. There was one other response that was at the same ratio, but all the other responses I received were more in the 75 to 85, 90% range.
Yep, that's my questions. Anything else? Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Always a pleasure.
Wendy for control back.
Check in on Deloitte.
Yep.
Perfect. Safe travels home.
Yes, thank you very much.
Say hi to Randy.
I will, for sure. She'll be a little bit jealous that I got to talk to you today.
Yeah.
You want this turned around?
Yes, please. Yeah, that's. Helps me to see without looking back. There. All right, hello, Deloitte. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Can you hear us or hear me?
Not very well. Just one sec here. Give us a second. We're gonna try turning it up here.
Now try?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Try again.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Technology is not. Yeah, it's not coming through the owl. It's only on.
It's still coming through here, hey? Yeah. I don't know, I've got the volume.
Looks like it's coming through the owl. Let's try the TV. Can you try again?
See, it's 25 beautiful
can't hear
degrees in
them all.
High
See,
Prairie.
25 beautiful degrees.
That was a little bit better.
Can you hear me
Oh.
okay? Testing?
Testing.
There it is.
Okay. We should be a little bit better now.
Okay, there's a delay.
Okay,
But,
there's a delay, but
I'll just ignore my voice.
I'll just ignore my voice.
Yes, technology is wonderful when it works perfectly, but not always working. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with the High Prairie Council. I know I got to sit in on your presentation that you made to the Economic Development Committee, and we appreciate you taking some time to, just share what you're looking at doing with our council.
Well, it's a pleasure, Mayor Panasiuk. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, I'll turn it over to you and then let you run through, and then we'll see if we have any questions at the end.
Thank you. I'm going to put
Thank you.
my,
I'm going to put
my speaker on silent so I don't hear myself. There's like a 2-second delay.
I don't hear myself. There's like a 2-second delay that I'm hearing.
Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Great. Well, Mayor Panasiuk and members of council, it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight and joined by my colleague, Chris Knopf. We had the pleasure, as the mayor mentioned, of meeting with the Regional Economic Development Committee and giving a presentation last week. Tonight, we're giving a bit of a shortened version of that. Happy to take any kinds of questions or comments along the way, please. You don't necessarily have to wait to the end, but there's definitely opportunity at the end as well. Chris is going to share the slides on the screen. There were two key messages that tried to bring across to the Regional Economic Development Committee last week, right off the top. First off is that the proposal that we prepared in response to the RFP that was issued was based almost entirely on the words that we saw in that document, in the RFP. We did our own research, of course, but our proposal came without the context of having conversations with people in the community, leaders like yourselves. And we wanted to emphasize to the Regional Economic Development Committee that while we know that we got the proposal pretty right because we were asked to come and have an interview, we doubted that it was perfect, and we wanted to leave the door open for some adjustments to, let's say, the way we approached local engagement, for instance. So we're still happy to make that statement. The second thing that I wanted to get across right from the top is that Deloitte, I'm sure, is recognized as a name to most of you. It's a highly valued it's a high value brand, and very reputable organization. But it's a big organization. There's something like 11 or 13,000 employees across Canada, primarily in the accounting, auditing, and mergers and acquisition space. What I wanted to emphasize is that the local economic development team that is identified to support you and the county in this economic development strategy comes from grassroots economic development. Many of our team members have worked at the municipal level in economic development, have supported municipalities in their economic development, and the core group, the 20 of us that now do local economic development for communities across the country, is rooted in a firm called Millier Dickinson Blay, which started in 2007. Myself and two others started that firm. And we became a national leader in local economic development because we had a very grassroots approach to things. Those same people who came with us from 3 years ago when we joined Deloitte are participating in this project, plus some new blood that carry the same guiding principles. That municipalities, that communities can control their own destiny, regardless of the kinds of challenges that may be going on in the broader economy. So you'll see references as we go through the presentation to some work that we've done for a wide range of local, small, rural and small town municipalities. Next slide, Chris. The team that we've identified for this proposal, as I mentioned, comes from a group of about 20 people that work on local economic development projects. These folks, myself and the others, were selected because of our interest in local economic development, particularly working with rural communities. They're selected for geographic appreciation of the geography of High Prairie and Big Lakes and northern and central Alberta, and they were selected for their skill sets. So we have myself. I would be the lead engagement partner. Amanda will be the project manager, more of the contact on a day-to-day basis. Jamie Van Struth is someone who brings a great wealth of information on economic impact and land use. And that was something that was specifically identified as important within the RFP. And then we have Christopher, who's joining us tonight, and Noah, who are our research and engagement specialists, and they'll be working primarily on the research analysis and leading into the strategic thinking that will support the rest of the team. And you can see on the right-hand side, broadly speaking, the kinds of things that we're going to be, that we think we're going to be looking at. We would need to, of course, ensure that the regional steering committee is supportive of this, but we're going to be doing some socioeconomic analysis and prioritization of the sectors that have the best opportunities for return on investment, investment attraction, land use, and stakeholder engagement. Chris is going to get into that in a bit more detail on the next slide, describing the methodology.
Perfect, thanks, Paul. And I'm also going to mute my computer as the feedback is a little bit hard to talk over. So please, wave your hands if you have a question or I happen to be going over the rails and nobody can hear me. Getting into the timeline for this project, we generally like to approach these types of projects in 4 phases. The first phase, our current state assessment, is really about getting a ground level understanding of what is going on in the community. So that's looking at some of our socioeconomic data sources. We have obviously access to a lot of public sources, but we supplement that with a number of proprietary sources and sources that we procure pertaining to local labor markets, pertaining to investment attraction, and a few other areas to help us get an understanding of what is happening locally and what is the necessary background information that we need for later stages of the project. Phase 2 is really around, now that we have a foundational understanding of what's going on, in this case in Big Lakes County and the town of High Prairie, where do we want to go, right? So that involves conducting a visions and aspirations workshop with councils. That involves community engagement in Big Lakes County as well as town of High Prairie. And then trying to package that all together in light of what are some of the trends going on, particularly as it concerns different economic sectors, but also other factors that might be happening at the national level, provincial level, regulatory changes, legislative changes, keeping those things in mind to make sure that communities are positioned for success. And once we have all of that information, of course, then we're able to begin the strategy development stage. And we're able to get into what are some specific and actionable recommendations in terms of investment attraction, in terms of land use, in terms of what sectors these communities are positioned to either go towards themselves or jointly, in many cases, pursue. Part of that is to attach a detailed implementation plan. We very much don't like to leave communities guessing as to how they need to achieve our strategies. So we always bookend our strategies with detailed step-by-step instructions on how to meet these desired ends, performance measures to know when you've succeeded, and a number of other factors, for instance, estimated costs that might be associated, what's the recommended ordering, timelines, these sorts of things. Of course, then we'll have an opportunity once there is buy-in from both councils to sensitize this with the community and see the reaction to how their feedback has also helped form it from an earlier stage, and then finally get into the final closing pieces in stage 4, finalizing a strategy document and doing a presentation. Here I want to talk a little bit about project outcomes, and there are a number of different pieces that will come out of the project. I'm not going to talk about every piece on the slide, but just the high level. I already mentioned the implementation plan and the importance of having clear step-by-step guidance. That's one thing that we really value, and it's important not just because active officers and people who just generally interface with active have different backgrounds and don't always know how to, you might be an expert on land use, but maybe not as much of investment or some other aspect, or maybe you don't know how to interact with businesses to the same extent. So it's good to have that information, but also creates a degree of organizational resiliency. The presentation, of course, before us was talking about challenges associated with employment turnover. Having detailed instructions and information, of course, helps to mitigate against some of the challenges of that, especially when you're looking at a longer-term multi-year strategy. Of course, one of the key outcomes is to understand the economic sectors. We have a detailed methodology for how we identify economic sectors. I haven't gotten into it as much in this presentation. I did previously with the regional committee. But we very much pride ourselves on combining local understanding with some of our data-driven information that we invest in having access to make sure we provide those insights to communities. Another key outcome of the project will be identifying opportunities to streamline processes in each community. This often has to do with areas like land use. There might be subtle tweaks or changes that could help to more easily facilitate investment, as well as there's an element of benchmarking that happens with these types of projects that helps you to understand where you sit relative to your peers, particularly when it comes to competitor peers, other communities that might be seeking similar types of investment. Make sure that Town of High Prairie and Big Lakes County are both positioned for success correctly. And the other part is identifying partnerships and understanding who to work with and where that's going to be most fruitful. Both communities don't need to do everything themselves. There could be opportunities for provincial partnership with other communities in the region. And that's not just from a policy perspective, but it's also from a funding perspective, particularly when you're talking about the government of Alberta, the government of Canada. There are opportunities to leverage funding that might be available. There are certain streams that people will be well familiar with, others that are actually rather undersubscribed. So providing recommendations as to what are some of those other funding streams that can be leveraged so that the financial burden of economic development doesn't solely fall on these communities. That's certainly something we always make sure to point out. But ultimately, the goal of the project, if we sum all these things together, is to produce a practical, hands-on guide for how to execute economic development over the next couple of years. And that's really what we want to focus on, providing you with over the course of this strategy. And with that, I'll pass it back to Paul briefly to offer some comments.
Thank you, Chris. Last couple of slides will give members of council more perspective on who we are and our experiences with High Prairie and Big Lakes, as well as other communities in Alberta. It was almost 14 years ago to the day, September 12th, was when I was in Big Lakes, the municipal district of Big Lakes at the time, and High Prairie. Conducting some engagement for an economic development strategy that Big Lakes had hired me for. So, or Miller Dickinson Blay, not just me, but our team at Miller Dickinson Blay. A great opportunity for me to get to know the communities in a lot more detail at the time. Did engagements in several locations throughout the county. High Prairie is, of course, just because of the economic importance that High Prairie plays in the Big Lakes County economy, was emphasized in the final strategy. I did a search today, and High Prairie comes up 92 times within the economic development strategy for Big Lakes. So it gives you a sense of the importance that we placed on the town's economy and participation with Big Lakes at the time. We followed that up a few years later in 2018. The company Miller Dickinson Blay was then became known as MDB Insight. And we did a business retention and expansion survey. So that means that we spoke with 80 businesses in High Prairie, Big Lakes, and in this case, Swan Hills as well. And that gave some interesting results and presented the idea to the regional committee that if it's of interest, we could repeat that survey, much like your previous presenter, understanding where the previous benchmarks were and to see where the trends may sit now. It was interesting at the time, 81% of businesses were satisfied with their location in these three places. Some things that were identified as being the highest importance to work towards were improving the availability of skilled labor, improving development and building permit processes, and improving some infrastructure like cellular, telephone, and internet services. In 2022, as I described in my opening, MDB Insight was acquired by Deloitte, and we created within Deloitte a local economic development practice, which supplemented the already existing macroeconomic practice. So what I mean by macroeconomic team is that they work with bigger levels of government, larger companies, to help them understand where the economy is going and how they should adjust their strategy. So you may see our chief economist on the news talking about the quarterly economic outlook that we do for the nation and each of the provinces and territories. So, want to emphasize that we're bringing this understanding and appreciation for small town, for rural Canada, for rural Alberta to this project, even though we are coming under the Deloitte banner. And the benefit of that Deloitte banner is that it brings so many more resources. The proprietary intelligence that Chris was mentioning in his presentation is all at our fingertips. And if there's an industry sector that we want to get some expertise on, it exists within Deloitte. The last slide are a series of icons, logos from communities that we've worked with recently. It's centered, they're surrounded by a wheel that shows the economic development services that Chris and my team offer. But I think you'll see, I hope that you see some familiarity or some similarity. A lot of communities in central and northern Alberta, Benson, Hinton, Grand Prairie, the county of Grand Prairie, the city of Grand Prairie, the municipalities within the county are like Wembley, Beaver Lodge, Hythe when it existed, and also some other places like Northern Sunrise, Lac La Biche, Bonnyville Town, Bonnyville Municipal District, and West Lock. And want to emphasize that in a lot of these cases, we're not just working with one municipality, we're working with a number of municipalities, like in this scenario, working with Big Lakes and High Prairie. So Bonnyville, it was a regional strategy for the town and the municipal district. In Grand Prairie, it's a regional. We were hired in 2021 to do the first regional strategy, and we're actually currently updating that. So that's the county of Grand Prairie, the MD of Greenview, Wembley, Beaver Lodge, and Sexsmith. In Medicine Hat, Chris and I worked on a project that was centered around 6 municipalities coming together for the first time to see what they could do regionally, like what could they do better together. So that was, Medicine Hat, big city, 60,000 people, but 2 rural counties like 40 Mile and Cypress, and 2 towns, Bull Island and Red Cliff, and 1 small village, Foremost. So it's really possible to make these communities that look different on the surface but really function under one larger economy. It's possible to identify a strong path forward when it comes to economic development. So with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to the mayor, and we're happy to respond to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul and Chris. That was very good. And I'll open the floor if anybody has any questions. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Senator Martins.
I wanted to wait. Good to see you gentlemen again, Chris and Paul. Thank you for being here this evening. I was hoping my other colleagues would have questions before I jumped in, since my second opportunity to ask. I do have a few questions. I believe, Paul, you mentioned leveraging the Deloitte banner and the broader scope of what the advisory practices are. So I just wanted to know if you could speak to, or if we within this proposal could leverage the nation building advisory practice, given our particular context of First Nations and Métis around. I mean, I've heard us talk about this, but I don't think our larger group has.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
and for the
Councilor
same sort of cost, as opposed to add-on services, just so that we have a proper estimate of cost as well. Just let us know how that would work.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Councillor Martins.
Thank you, Councillor Martins. I
definitely will answer the beginning. Maybe if Chris caught the end, I didn't quite catch the end because I was overlapped with my voice when I pressed the part started to respond. But the nation building practice, thank you for bringing that up. The nation building practice at Deloitte is seriously one of a kind in the country. The company takes seriously the call to resolution that the private sector should be part of truth and reconciliation. And I say seriously in terms of not just saying the words, but investing in it. The firm created a nation building practice, investing literally millions of dollars in creating a consulting team of Indigenous representatives and based out of Calgary. And their goal is to advance the self-governance of Indigenous communities, but also to ensure that there's stronger relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous nations, governments. And we work closely with the nation building team on a wide range of projects, most recently and heavily in the District of Houston and Central British Columbia, just west of Prince George. Chris was very involved in that project. It's with seven. I think there are 7 Indigenous communities in the region, a number of Métis settlements, and a number of First Nations. We'd be happy to entertain how these communities could be involved in this engagement. Our response at the meeting last week was to kind of put it back to the communities, the municipalities, to identify the strength of the existing relationships between the communities, and we would be very pleased to be able to bridge those relationships where they're strong. There's opportunities potentially to talk right off the bat about joint economic opportunities. Some of the communities, I believe, have their own development corporations or economic functions. So that's a launching point potentially to open up conversation. Where the relationships may not be as strong, maybe it takes more of a bridge building and more of a trust generation type of engagement exercise, and we could definitely support in that. Chris, do you have some things to add?
Not too much to add. We've partnered with Nation Building in a number of different contexts, like Paul said, sometimes it's to help communities understand how they can engage with Indigenous groups that are near them that have historically not been well engaged, or there's not been an existing relationship, and sometimes we're bringing them in more in the sense of helping to flesh out those opportunities in detail if there is a highly established relationship. So we'll take the lead from the communities as to what seems most appropriate in context. And then I believe the other note that came in from Councillor Martins at around the time that Paul was coming on and off of mute and trying to listen was related to scope of the project. And obviously engagement with a variety of groups is always part of our scope for these economic development projects, and that includes Indigenous communities. Depending on the scale at which that looks like and what where we want to take that, any expanded scope, if that was of interest, could of course be discussed, but I don't want to necessarily quote anything off the top of my head at the moment.
Thank you for that response. I specifically also asked that question on the heels of a session that I attended earlier today that talked about collaboration and grant funding, including Indigenous partners. So that was one of the reasons I asked that question. Secondly, I understand that your methodology is very data-driven and very data-rich. I appreciate that. A lot of High Prairie's opportunities and challenges are, social and relational in nature. I'm just wondering how your approach would take into consideration these soft factors, and how would we measure quality of life impacts, things like that are more qualitative and not quantitative.
Thanks again for the question, Councillor Martins. Good question. One of the principles that we have in our economic development strategies to aim to understand how to bring all demographics of the communities forward and participating actively in the economy. There's massive change, massive improvements, massive positive change can occur when communities that are traditionally underrepresented in the community or struggle to participate actively in the economy become active in the economy. So we do look at that. It doesn't always come out in the data, I think, as you're inferring. So it's important for us to ask questions, and we'll do that first off with the Regional Economic Development Committees to understand where the aspirations lie on that front,
on that front.
Something that really is important to emphasize about our data is that it's collected at a local level to some degree, but largely it's at a larger level. So our interactions, our personal interactions with members of the community, business and community leaders is about ground truthing the information. I think Chris mentioned in the regional committee meeting that the reason that we do some of the research in advance of the conversations that we want to have a context, and we want to have a general understanding and appreciation of what the data is telling us about Big Lakes and High Prairie, and bring that forward and say, this is what the data is telling us. Does this resonate? Does this make sense? Is this true? Do you have different feelings about it? And through those kinds of inquiries and conversations, we really do. We are able to really understand what the community's vision and aspirations and hopes and dreams are, and fears and worries are.
I'm going to ask, I have two little things here. One, I want you to talk about aftercare, because the last thing, I'm sure in our discussions, council will want to know how this won't just collect us. So aftercare might be something you want to touch on. And secondly, Paul, you have some additional background with NDB, plus the initial review that you've been part of now for the last month. What would you say is High Prairie's most compelling and unique selling proposition? Like, why High Prairie? More than just we have land and resources. I mean, we all know that. So this is a large engagement for us for utilizing public funds. What is from your initial review, what would you say some of those really compelling High Prairie value propositions could be or are?
That's a challenging question to answer directly at this point in time, and one that I actually maybe take pride in not answering, because I haven't listened yet, and I don't want to create a sense that I might be approaching with bias. What I would like to say is, since the meeting on, the question came up on last week. I think it was your question, Councillor Martins, about some of the things that I found interesting about the work that was done in 2011 and then following up in 2018. And I mentioned tourism was identified as a significant driver potential driver by many in the community. We never saw, objectively never saw tourism as driving the economy as much as some of the current sectors and some of the potential sectors. So what we did, and we did not ignore tourism as a potential, but what we recommended is that some investment take place that benefits both the tourism economy and the resident population. So investment in recreational infrastructure, for instance, whether that's boardwalks and bird sanctuaries, or recreation, rec facilities, investments in infrastructure like broadband telecommunications. These are things that both tourists and the local population would find of benefit. The second one that I mentioned, which I followed up on since, I said, the Seal Lake corridor came up a lot in 2011. I said, I wonder what the status of it. And I've looked since, and I saw that the corridor has been completed. I think that's an incredible accomplishment, as something that was identified that many years ago to be done, and now to provide that kind of economic opportunity for the community. That's something of a differentiator, at least I would say, in northwestern Alberta.
Well done. All right, anything else? Councillor Tanaka.
So I guess my question is, So you've submitted your proposal to create an economic development strategy. And I guess, I mean, you've sort of explained it. I guess my question is, what are we trying to achieve with this? Like, what are we, what's the end goal to this? And is it gonna be another report or another whatever that we look at it and go, oh, hey, great ideas, and then it's plumped on the shelf with multiple other reports gathering dust? So if you could answer those questions, I would appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Danak. I'm glad you asked
Absolutely.
before
Thank you,
the meeting was over,
Councillor
because it's
Danak.
a critical one.
The meeting is over because it's a
Chris, one of
critical
Chris's
one.
slides identified a number of outcomes that are results of completing an economic development strategy. I'll just pick up on a couple. First off, as I mentioned in the opening, we're really strong believers that communities can control their own economic destiny. We're in a region that's that investment happens oftentimes based on commodity prices, whether economy goes up or goes down. That's the case in a lot of places, but even places where they're under those kinds of influences, they're taking on things that lessen booms. Sorry, don't lessen booms, they lessen busts. They even out the economic potential and create opportunities no matter what's going on in the outside world. So we're strong believers in that. We're excited that High Prairie and Big Lakes believe in that as well by issuing this RFP and creating this project. So we want to support that. And what we're going to do in large part is prioritize where the town, where the county should invest in economic development. We're going to prioritize. When we're in this project and you're participating in a meeting where we're discussing economic development opportunities, you'll hear that there's likely dozens of different ideas from various people. That's great. Can't do all dozen opportunities. We need to narrow that down and ensure that the town's future investment in infrastructure, in land use, in investment readiness to prepare for investment is best spent, and that you're targeting or you're welcoming the types of businesses that are most likely to add economic value and wealth and tax base to communities. One thing I didn't pick up on with Councillor Martin's question, she asked about aftercare, and I'll say to your point, Councillor Danak, about reports sitting on the shelf, nothing bothers me more than hearing that. And I will say there have been reports from our firm over the 18 years that I've been doing that have sat on the shelf, no question about it. But I'm really proud of the fact that most don't. And one of the ways that we can help be successful, and this can come within the existing budget of the project if we move some other things around, or it can be, of course, an add-on, is some ongoing support. And we've just finished work, as I mentioned, with the City of Medicine Hat, the Town of Red Cliff, Bow Island, 40 Mile, Cypress, and 4 Mile. And one of the things that I'm really proud of there, I'm proud that first of all they identified the need early on to have ongoing support because it was a new regional economic development committee, much like this one. And I'm really happy that they stuck with it and that we were able to meet with them regularly for the first several months after the strategy was done to ensure that things began to move forward and they started seeing early wins, because you need to have early wins in order for the rest of the community to say this was worth it.
the rest of the
And
community to
it's,
say, this was
it's
worth
something
it.
that we want to stick
And
with.
it's something that we want to stick with.
Councillor Yashishin has a question.
Not so much a question, I guess I just want to say thank you. There's a lot of important opportunities there and it's quite exciting. And I think it's really vital and really key for growth and planning. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see anything else from our council, so thank you very much, Paul and Chris, for your presentation and answering all of our questions. And I'm gonna say good luck in your presentation tomorrow with the county.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Have a good evening and thanks for taking the time out to join us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Wendy, do you need to do anything? It's just gonna keep recording? All right. So we have that. We'll move on then to any public delegations. No public delegations. All right, moving on then to our fire chief's report. Can I get a motion to start this discussion? Councillor McWinkle.
Move that we receive the fire chief's August 25 report. Follow the recommendations as laid out in the report.
All right, come on, David. Go ahead.
Good evening. I just got a couple of things to add to my report that just came in at the start of September. We have confirmed our open house for Fire Prevention Week will be on October 10th. Plains Midstream has, as most public has seen, I don't know if you councillors have seen, have granted us $25,900 towards 3 Starlinks that we'll be putting on our fire trucks for when we go to remote areas. And we have received our junior fire safety books that were all sponsored by local businesses throughout town. And I didn't bring a book. I apologize.
You want to talk about your open house a bit?
Oh, sorry, what's that?
Could you talk about your open house and what it entails and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fire Prevention Week, this year's theme is Charge into Fire Safety, Lithium-ion batteries in your home. So it's just to bring awareness of the hazards and proper storage and disposal of batteries within your house. We're gonna have more of a Q&A for that part of it. We're gonna put our obstacle course together, so parents and children and counselors can come and try the obstacle course out. It'll be in the hall. We'll have coloring books, stuff like that out for the kids. We'll have hopefully a digital display out with some videos of how to dispose of lithium-ion batteries and, you know, if you don't, the consequences of what could happen. So it'll be a good information session and hopefully a recruitment spot too, so.
What date and time is that again?
It's on October 10th.
10th.
From 5 to 7. Oh, and we'll have hot dogs. Hot dogs are on the agenda.
Right, so I guess we can maybe start with just focusing on the report in terms of what's happened in the past month, and then we can look at your recommendations for recruitment after.
Yes, sir.
So anything on the report that you'd like to, anything else on the report that you're wondering about? No questions? Okay, well, let's go to your recommendations to recruit and retain firefighters.
Pretty much how I laid it out. We're struggling hard for recruitment and retention. These are just a few options or suggestions. Like I said, we're always up for suggestions. It's tough. Nobody wants to do it anymore.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just sort of get things started. Like your recommendations, one is a letter that's already on social media. And how is that working for you? Have you been getting many hits? Are you getting anybody?
It had lots of views, couple comments, but that was about it. That letter was more for information, just to say why we're important or why we're here and how they can join our team. Again, that only drummed up a couple, which they are no longer with us now. They just work commitments took too much and they ended up going actually out of town for work, so. Yeah, and then that and what was the other one?
Well, and just the number 2 you have here is have the town match the Fire and Rescue Society Scholarship Fund. So you already have a scholarship fund in place, is that correct?
Yeah, so we just approved this through our rescue society, so the fundraising stuff that we do, that's just, that all that stuff comes from like barbecue rentals, the table rentals that the society puts on. And it's just our way of more or less giving back to our juniors and hopefully recruiting more juniors into the program. So there is a pretty thick guideline to be even considered for the scholarship. But in the end, possible candidate in increments could earn up to $3,000 to $6,000 from our society. We're just looking to see if the town is interested in matching or adding into that based off of our guidelines and our scholarship SOG, I guess, our safety operating guideline.
Well, one question I have on that, the scholarship idea, which I think is kind of unique, is other communities doing that? Do you know of others doing it?
Apparently now another one is. So they got wind of it. The communities are trying different things to see if if this is how we drum up the youth, right? We're short. We pounded out on social media. It doesn't work. Like I don't know how to get people in the door. So we'll start with the young kids and hopefully get them hook, line, and sinker. So.
Okay, yeah, that was sort of where I was going, is wondering if this has worked in other communities, because I think there might be some potentials there. No.
Sorry, I have no pros and cons about it. So it's for us, for our membership, we're 100%. We're in. We actually just had a student that he's in school, or he's our junior. He came up, gave us 3 years. He's a little myth that this program just came in. Now he's not eligible, so it's good. We have another junior who he's pretty excited. We have firefighters, their kids are excited about it, so hopefully their friends are excited and we can move on from there. So.
Councilor Tanaka.
So just to carry on with, since we're talking about the junior scholarship.
Yeah.
So on page 28 of our agenda, the SOG 114.1.
Yeah.
So is this sort of like a return for service bursary?
Yeah, more or less, it'll be when they go to school, that's when we'll probably give it for us. And it's, for us, it's based off of our AGM, which is in November,
Right,
so that's when we distribute the funds. Or make the decision and to how much.
so the member must remain active until attending the institution to benefit. If the member ceases to meet SOG 102.11, then the member will forfeit all accumulated funds earned from current and previous awards. So I'm kind of confused there.
Okay, so it's as a junior in the SOG, bear with me here. Where are we? SOG 114.1,
Yeah.
number 4. So
Yep.
our age groups are between 14 to 17, so it's 3 years. So if the member joins when he's 14, he's eligible after a year and giving us the service of that year, he's eligible for $500 for that year. Right?
Okay.
So, and then the second year, now he's there for the second year, he's eligible to receive another $1,000. But if he leaves anywhere in that, he forfeits that money.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
So there's no return of service, they're putting the service in upfront.
They're putting it in upfront, absolutely.
And-
And then
and-
hopefully we can catch them to come back to the community when they come back and still have the itch. Cause it's 3 years they're putting in, so, and there is the minimum requirements for them. And then the doubling of that is if a parent or guardian joins as well. And then they have to put in the attendance expectations from SOG 107.6. And again, it's pretty thorough. I think it's 200 hours. So you're getting a working firefighter if they're putting in 200 hours.
And just so I'm clear, number one, the Rescue Society has already implemented this.
Yeah.
But you're coming to the town and saying, would you match that? So instead of it being 500, it would be 1,000 or something.
Yeah, so but it would only be paid out once and to one person. So it's not gonna be multiple people. And this year you're gonna get $3,000 to $6,000. It's going to be one firefighter that's gonna get X amount of dollars. Totaling $3,000 to $6,000, well, from us, unless you guys do the same. Right, so potentially one person in their third year before they go to school could get up to $12,000.
12,000.
Yeah, yeah. So if you guys put in 6, we put in 6, right? If their parents join and they give us time for up to. No, I think I'm wrong here now. No, I think I'm right. I'm right. You had me because, no, because.
So if they're there for 3 years, that's $1,500, right?
No, so it's 500 for the first year.
Yeah.
$1,000 for the second
So
year,
that, okay,
So
so
that's
that's a total of
$1,500.
1,500.
and then another $1,500 for the third year.
Oh, okay, so it's not, okay, it's not just building by 500, it's an additional.
It's an additional, because now you're gonna start, they're gonna start being able to come to wildland fires. They're a little more educated in the fire trade.
Okay, so that's, yeah, I see, that's how, if they're there for 3 years, that would be $6,000.
So 3 years, if their parent guardian doesn't join, that's up to $6,000
If they,
that junior would make. When he goes to school.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm not sure how we deal with that. Do we deal with each one of those at a time and see where council's thinking on that? And then, because there's other ones here too, right? Like,
Well, and again, just remember, these are just suggestions.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking for assistance. I'm trying social media. I tried the letter. I tried a survey. I had 4 people respond. And it was just check the boxes more or less in short answers, so.
have you tried the firefighter calendar yet?
What's that? We did the fire calendar, I don't know, 4 years ago. It was entertaining.
Yeah. Counselor Stenhouse?
Have you tried, just the public, ask them what works for them and what things they would need to join and be a member of the fire department? Do you know what I mean? Like what would help them to overcome the barriers or challenges to join? Like, I know you guys are trying your best with your ideas, but have you asked the public what is their barriers and how they can overcome them to join the fire department?
Yeah, yes, I did. Yeah, I think, was it May or June? I put out a survey online. And I had a lot of views on it, but only 4 comments on it, or 4 people fill it out. And it was short answer. Why don't you do it? Won't work. Did you know you need 0 training to do it? No, I didn't know. So some people didn't know that. So we're reaching out and we're telling them that we train, all training is in-house. It's paid for. So we can take a 14-year-old kid and turn him into a firefighter. Right, so all the training is in-house. It was all in the survey that we put out. That's, I guess, more or less how I was hoping to get the answers that I needed to go further, but I can't get them to fill out the survey.
And have you considered changing your policy? I know when I was on the department, you had to reside in town and be within so many minutes of the hall. Have you guys maybe considered expanding that?
So we're up to 10, anyone who lives in town, obviously crib check, and 10 kilometers of town. That's a big gap. Usually our trucks are gone by 5 minutes, as the pager goes, so they're probably not making a truck. There'll be a supportive,
that when I was on the department, I remember that you would still respond even though the trucks were gone in case an in-town call came in.
Yeah.
So
So we do have those. We do have, hey, I'm 13 kilometers out. We do have stipulations that if you do live out of town and you say, I'll be second call. Because on our phones, we could tell how long we're gonna be till we're at the fire hall. If it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we can meet on scene. That's all on our phone. So it's just checking the box. And if you live out of town and you put second call, you're actually supposed to drive to town and stage at the hall. And again, if we have limited firefighters, I need as many as I can get to go to that call. I know what you're talking about, but it's tough. We have to have some boundaries, because otherwise I'll have somebody coming in from an agony area. Like that's a long ways to come in for a call. And then now they're gonna abide by the highway rules, and I don't want that on my plate, but. Yes, there is supportive rules. By all means, there's we've had retired members, but come on, say, hey, can I be an auxiliary? We'll come in and wash hose. 100%. Like that is the best thing to have when you come back from a long call, is fresh legs there willing to work. So we have those opportunities too. But again, it's to get people to ask the questions, to fill it in. Our applications have not all of them, some of the requirements that we require from them, and some of the perks that they also get. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Tanaka.
I just have a question, sort of in piggyback on Councilor Stenhouse. Do the firefighters still have their green lights on their dash?
Some of them, a lot of them have had it.
Oh, okay.
It didn't work. Some it worked. Again, it's up to the residents to inform them of what that means, right? And with those green lights, we can't break the rules of the highway. It's just to notify them if they're doing 30 in a 50 zone. Well, maybe they'll pull over for us, right? It's just saying that we're on our way to that emergency. So it's optional for the firefighter to take. And then to remember to turn on when you're responding.
You've mentioned auxiliary. What's the, auxiliary, what's the difference there with a regular firefighter versus an auxiliary firefighter?
So auxiliary is in our guidelines that we have for attendance, if you don't attend 3 months of practice, you're reviewed by the senior membership of the department, including myself. So all my officers and us get together, we go through and we determine if your attendance was satisfactory. If it was good and you met our requirements, then you stay as that full firefighter spot. If you move to the first stage auxiliary, you could respond, but you don't get priority in a seat. Okay, and then if another month or another 3 months pass and we review your attendance again, now you get bumped down to second stage auxiliary, where you're a supportive role. You don't go interior, you don't do any of that kind, like in the initial scene or the incident, you're not there, you're on the outskirts, you're in the safe zone, that kind of stuff, and assisting there. And if seats allow it, you'll be allowed to go in the truck. But you have to give up your seat to a firefighter in that spot. And then that comes down to the whole saying that I've said a few times, an untrained firefighter is just a civilian, right? So 6 months of not training, a lot of things change, a lot of things are forgotten, and then you just become a liability. You can't have that on a seat, so.
Okay, thanks for that. Councilor Martins?
Hi, David. Thanks for coming in. I really like items number 1 and 2, your suggestions. 2 things. One, I'd like you to explain number 3 to me. I didn't quite get that one. About businesses, I think it's number 3.
Yeah, no, I just got it. So I apologize, I get lots of documents, so.
So that is 1. So I'll let you answer that first, maybe.
Number 3,
Yeah.
Councilor, so this is to encourage businesses to encourage their employees or themselves to respond. Or to join the fire department and allow them to leave on work time, that kind of stuff. Like arrange it so whether they agree to pay their employee while they leave, or 100%, you can go, or you can go if it's this one or this one, right? Or if you notice there's not a lot of people attending, right? And obviously where jobs are. So it's to give them that incentive as well.
I get it now. Thank you. And the next question is, you mentioned in one of your letters there that there could be negative implications to our insurance policy if we don't have enough active members. So what does that mean if we don't have enough whatever they stipulate in the policy? Does that mean that our premiums would go up? What is the negative?
Yes, so this is all new to me and I'm slowly reading in on it. It's the fire underwriter survey, and apparently all our information is on this, and your insurance companies actually look at this when you're figuring out your premiums and what you're gonna be insured for.
When was the last one done by the insurance?
What's that, sorry?
When was the last insurance assessment done?
Seems like in 2021.
I just got the login, so bear with me here. When, which was it?
The insurance policy.
Oh.
Well, then we like option 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3?
It's a question on number 3. I was just wondering, if a member puts in 200 hours a year and they receive an additional $500 above and beyond, that's what you're looking to the town for, just first, that's not coming from the auxiliary fund, right?
No, there's auxiliary, they're not meeting the requirement. So this is your full-fledged firefighter that's put in 200 hours.
And so each year we have, you're saying about 15 of them that do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's,
So my suggestion for that one was to put it against a discount maybe on property taxes. But we do have residents that live out of town, so it was to put towards your property taxes. But I guess they'll do whatever they want with it. But again, they're just suggestions.
Yeah, no, again, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, don't worry.
And what's worked and what the dollar figure would be for our budget too, right? Like that's the.
I know, I know.
And my other question would be, like you talk about some of the other perks, and I know that the members and their families can go to the pool, and do they value that, or is
I mean,
it?
absolutely, they value that.
Yeah, okay.
But again, it is a budgeted item. But we have that and we don't have members or where we want our membership amount to be at. Does that make sense?
No.
No, like, so we have that pool access right now?
Yeah.
Yes, so, and we're still low membership, so don't get me wrong, it's a great feature. Our members use it pretty religiously, which is good because it's physical activity too. Their kids use it. Again, it's just one other perk that we get that we can hopefully drum up membership.
You talked about increasing the hourly wage to $20 and 25 for the officers. What are they making now when they go out?
Right now, we're at $14.99. So we're getting out of bed to make the $14. So just ask yourself, would you do it?
And I mean, that's not even minimum wage, right?
No.
I mean, but, and that's because it's considered an honorarium versus a wage. Is that the?
Yeah, more of it. It's paid per call. That is what it is now. We're volunteer, like we do a lot of volunteer work with the community, but we're technically a paid per call or paid per call department.
So, okay. I see, I just think that if it's pay for call, how can we do that when it's not even minimum wage? Because I believe minimum wage is $15 an hour.
It is, it's just under, it's been that way. I don't know how long it's been that way, since I think we started getting it.
I think you need to look into that because if I recall, if you make below minimum wage, you don't have to claim it. That's why you gotta be careful, keep it just below minimum wage.
Oh.
Because then it'll just add to their income, right? And we don't want that happening.
Well, and it might be a difference if it's called an honorarium versus a wage. That's why I'm kind of wondering where that falls, right?
But even still, an honorarium, as you know, we have to claim that. So you have to be very careful how this is worded and grouped and stuff like that. Because if you raise it to minimum wage, it's now an income and it goes on your personal income tax.
So the way we do it now, it's a point system. So we could technically say that we're making $15 an hour, and instead of giving us 2 points per practice, so that's 2 hours, right? You could increase that part, but we're still making that $15 or $14.99, but maybe go with 3.2 points or 3.5 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, I-
saying,
and I
be
go-
very careful with your dollar figures, because you want to keep it down so that they don't have to claim it as extra income on personal income tax.
David, do the members of the fire department still get a special tax break from on their income tax? I know that for a little while that was in there, you could write more stuff off. I don't know if that's still in effect from.
We get a tax letter if you put in that 200 hours.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's $6,000 that you could put towards your taxes. I just hand that over to whoever deals with taxes. I don't know whatever that comes about. I know it's a good thing. And I'm very
Yeah, when you use the software, TurboTax, it pops up if you're asking you.
No, I don't do that. That's the other.
You're right, it's about 6,000.
Yeah, I think it's a
tax break.
But
I just said, you said something about some of our firefighters are outside of the town. Is it because do they volunteer for the town because they're closer here versus the county fire department?
Hey,
Okay,
yeah, they live within 2 miles of town.
closer here.
Yeah. We do have a member that she works in town. But she lives in Emilda, so she's actually on both departments.
Right.
But she's very, very good at attendance. It's pretty much never misses and any daytime calls, which is, it's pretty good to get a daytimer to attend, so.
And on that note, David, have you thought of with the other fire chief, is there any way to like recruit together? Is there anything that they're doing that is working? You know, is there anything that we can collaborate on or do jointly?
Yeah, so any function that we put on, we actually we turn it into recruitment. And it doesn't matter if I recruit for High Prairie or if I recruit for the county. Like, I'm not gonna, oh, you're not from High Prairie, I'm not gonna talk to you, right? I'm like, hey, where do you live? Oh, Juicer, you should join, right? So we do have that, and it's very solid. Like, all members and all the other departments, they do the exact same thing. They're pushing their membership. Doesn't matter where you live, what community, they push it to.
So just in regards to the businesses, I'm not sure which businesses allow their people to go. I'll just use West Fraser as an example, because there's a handful of that. So I guess my question is, or have you thought, or do you honor those employees some way, or the employers some way? Like, do you thank them at the thing? Do you give them a plaque saying, thank you for allowing your people to be part of the fire department?
So we at our awards night, we absolutely 100%. That's what our heart is our employers, our families that allow us to go to those calls. And every time and any chance we can, we give shout outs. It's hard to give them an award or a plaque by any means. I don't think they're looking for that. I think they're just looking for, to assist and help out, and that's their way of assisting it, right? So. Okay, but we definitely do thank the employers, and that it might not be face to face, it might be over.
I mean, a nice letter thanking them would be a nice touch. It's somewhat impersonal in a sense, but at least you're acknowledging them. Cause they don't necessarily attend your award ceremony. That's right. So a nice letter each year thanking the business or the employer for allowing, people to be part of the fire department or whatever, little thing, or even a little thing in the paper. Okay, we'd like to acknowledge blah, 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 for allowing their employees to be part of the fire department.
Perfect, I like that, thank you.
Or how about council do that? Instead of putting it on to the fire department. That the town of High Prairie would like to thank these businesses for doing
a good idea. We can do that as an advertisement, a page ad during firefighters week or something. Good idea.
And that's coming up. And that's coming up.
That's fire prevention.
Fire prevention, right, okay. Now, number 4, I'm just looking at it, contact business owners and have them encourage their employees. Who do you see doing that? Is that something that you would do? You see council doing that? You see administration doing that?
That could be just a letter that we send out to all the businesses. When we do our Christmas parties and stuff that we put on for the businesses, we usually go door to door. And again, it could be a great time to do the letter that says thank you for that. And maybe this is a way of us giving back to the businesses, right? So it's, yes. either or, yeah, I can do it. It's again, these are just suggestions, so. And how they come about, getting that information to the employer. So when we, on our applications that we have and when guys fill them out, they have to state their employer and if their employer supports them, going to daytime calls. And again, it's not just daytime calls, it's those 5 a.m. calls that could potentially go into those 9, 10 o'clock in the morning calls. So you're missing that little bit of work too, right? So, and again, we're usually pretty good. If people are like, I gotta go to work, then we usually send them off and we continue on. So we do what we can and where we can.
I'm wrestling a little bit with what you want to see happen tonight, just, like what you want council to approve something tonight, or are you just looking for ideas, or do you wanna, I guess I'm just struggling to help.
With again, it's all for information. If there's stuff you like, by all means, I'd love it if you would accept it. The scholarship, that's a big one for us. I think the town has a return to service bursary. I don't know if it's been used. Maybe that can go into this. So now we're getting the work up front because that person might come back and only give that 1 year and leave, where now they're putting in for 3 years of work. I don't know, and again, they're all suggestions. If you like them, you like them, and I guess that's where number 6 comes in. Hey, just take it as information and go from there. But my big one right now is 1. If you guys agree to 1, I would 100% take 1. If you agree to 1 to 3, I would absolutely take that too. To me, it's $200. That's a lot of time to put in, and that's not volunteering. That's not working functions or open houses or any of that stuff. That's practices and that's fire calls. That's it. So if we have that open house, those volunteers are coming in to work that open house, to run a barbecue, run a station on their own time. And that's $0 to the town.
And we certainly need to do something different in order to attract volunteers, because I mean, you're trying your best now without the financial support, and we aren't getting volunteers.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm bribing kids, I'm like, get on your parents and come join the fire department, and they're all with my buddy's kids, but I'm going down that path because we're desperate. Every department is desperate for members, so.
Right.
All right, now your motion, just.
Yeah, my motion was, follow the
Recommendation.
recommendations as laid out.
So
We've had
that's-
some discussion. So I was going to say, 1 through 3. I'm fine with that. Just as something else for the business owners, a door decal. Our business, our staffs are on the fire department.
Okay.
Kind of if they're running, get out of their way.
Right.
So it's something, but I think, I don't know, did they used to do that back in the day?
I think they had stickers that they used to put on.
Yeah, just
I support the fire department.
Yeah, our staff run the fire department and.
So, and that could be a way of us contacting those business owners, right? So if they have that sticker in the door, people know that they support the fire department, and maybe those are the businesses that allow their members to respond. And maybe businesses in town just need to learn about the fire department. So maybe it's a lot of work. Maybe it's a door-to-door thing. I'm sorry for me, but it's just a little more on my plate, but maybe that's what has to get done to inform members.
David, I remember when they used to put them up on the roof and you had to pay to get them down. You know what I'm talking about?
Wasn't that RCMP or somebody?
No, it was through the fire department that we used to put a firefighter up on the roof and then we would collect money to bring them down. That was a big promoter of the fire department.
What if they don't pay?
It's 40 below.
I can't remember what it was called, but one firefighter, you guys would put a firefighter up on the roof and then the firefighters would go around collecting donations to get this firefighter off. That was a big promoter of the fire department. And people used to gather around the fire department and look up at the guy and
Like jail bail.
like, it's just ideas like.
100%. Oh,
How
I'm game. Would any councilors like to step in?
Yeah, no.
No? 40 below?
We'll never get money.
No.
You guys will be paying to keep us up there.
Yeah.
Maybe a little money.
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Tell me if
It's, I like it. I like the suggestions, the feedback, all that stuff, so.
So can you give us time to get back to you on this? Cause this has got us thinking and brainstorming.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you get information or any ideas, please pass it on to David or me or whoever.
So I'm looking, like, items 1 through 3, 1 is already done, so it's not really anything that we do. 2 and 3, it just, you know,
Well,
number
we'd be
2
matched.
is about.
Are you gonna match it?
Well, suggestion number 1 was a letter to post on.
Oh, you're not on.
I'm looking at the letter. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at something different there.
We draw 17.
I'm looking at his letter. Yeah, that's what I'm. So number 3, council directs administration to contact business owners and have them encourage the owners or employees to join and receive some of the benefits. These are the benefits above and the other perks that are already in there.
Yeah.
So it's basically going out and promoting the businesses at the end, so, okay.
So why would you have the fire chief contact them instead of administration?
Why would I do it?
Yeah. Cause you could answer the questions better, you know what I'm saying? You
Oh,
know more about it.
Well, we would be
Yeah.
directing administration, who would in turn
Yeah.
direct the fire
Yes.
chief. That's right. Yeah. Okay, now that makes more sense to me now that, and altogether, I mean, at this point, and I think number 4, you'd really want to check with, you know, an accountant to make sure it's not gonna be a detriment
Yeah.
for what you're
And-
getting
and
now
again,
versus so on.
Look at that, so now that we're on the same number 4, that's where that point system comes in. So, and we could do it through the point system, so it's still $14, but instead of 2 points of practice, it could be 3 points of practice. Right, to get that up that little bit more, so you're still making your $14.99, so you're making that below. But now instead of a 2-hour practice being paid out at $30, maybe that's where you get your $40 to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
that's, increasing the points, though, that's not a council decision, that's a department decision. Right?
It's a council decision.
Because I have no problem with you guys doing that at all. Right? It's,
Cause we break it down per points per call.
yeah,
And it's easy to tally and figure out, so.
But
we have to word this differently, though.
that is a budget item and the
Yeah.
county does share on the operational budget of this. So for us to make any kind of money decision tonight without.
Oh, no, absolutely. I guess that could be part of that. And assume there's a budget committee, again, I'm bringing the stuff, so, and maybe that's where we could ask and bring that stuff up there, so.
Well, items number 1 and 2, if I add them up, roughly, I mean, it's $15,000, because number 1 is $6,000 sort of max. And that's if somebody's been there for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And number 2, $500, and let's just say you've got 16 members that meet that. That's $8,000. So you got 6 and 8. So that's 15,000. I mean, that's something, I think if that would help recruit, I'm all for it for sure. And I totally agree with 3. Number 4, I think is something that we'd want to look into more before you make those kind of decisions. But if I wouldn't be against that, but in my,
Yeah, absolutely.
now, where would I guess, we don't have anybody this year really collecting on the 6,000, right? Like for this particular budget year. And then there might be 14,000 if we approve this year. Where would the money come from for that? You said unrestricted reserve.
Restricted operating savings.
Surplus. Yep. So we would have it coming out of our operating surplus if we would make that.
Yep.
And then it would be added into next year's budget as an item.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, for a small budget item like that, I'm all for it if it will help.
I'm hoping. Again, I'm throwing anything I can out there, so. And I absolutely love the feedback and the ideas, so I'll bring it up to the membership. Maybe we'll throw the old chief up there.
Yeah. Are you meeting with the county as well to go through all this?
So the county at this time is, I think they're looking at doing their own scholarship
Oh, okay.
for the scholarship part of it. And then everything else is will be through us.
If he puts his up there, all he needs is just to take a bottle of water and pour it out. He'd walk down on the water. That's how light he is.
Maybe we could have 2 pools. Keep them up and take them down.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'll do it for you. Let me know when.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept items 1 through 3. Any more discussion on those?
And the report for information.
And the report for information. Councilor Martins?
Councilor Wakefield, if you could just make a friendly addition to your motion to say we support or direct administration for items 1 through 3, funds coming from unrestricted operating surplus, please. Just so it's specified in the motion.
Yes, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay, anything else before we vote? Okay, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you for your report. Your ideas, and hopefully this will help get some people in the doors there.
If you guys have ideas, please shoot them off to David or myself. Yeah. I'll make them. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a look now and get through.
You back from vacation? How was vacation?
Very good.